Let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. When did you last look at your rent, or your mortgage statement, or your bank balance at the end of the month and think, there has to be a better way? Here's the reality check nobody wants to say out loud. The median home price in the United States hit $512,800 in 2025. That's not a luxury home. That's not a mansion. That is the middle-of-the-road, average American house. And for millions of people, it is completely out of reach. But here's what nobody is talking about loudly enough. All across this country, people are opting out of that system. Not settling, not downgrading. Building some of the most stunning, livable, affordable homes you've ever seen in your life. Those homes come in 3 flavors. The Barndominium, a steel-framed, open-concept powerhouse that looks like a luxury home at a fraction of the cost. The Modern Farmhouse, America's reigning design obsession, warm and timeless, but with a price tag that deserves a brutally honest conversation. And the tiny home, the minimalist revolution that promised financial freedom and in many ways delivered, but also has real limitations most content will never tell you about. My name is Dan. This is Home Wars, and this series is going to change how you think about where you live. Stay with me until the end of this video. I'm going to give you the complete roadmap for this series, and I saved the most important part for last. Real quick, if you're new here, this channel is built on one promise: honest, researched, no fluff housing information that you can actually use to make a real decision. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell, because this is a series, and each episode builds on the last. You do not want to fall behind. And drop a comment right now. Team Barndominium, Team Farmhouse, or Team Tiny Home. Tell me what you're leaning toward and why. I read every comment, and your answers are literally shaping this series. Okay, let's get into it. Before we meet the 3 contenders, I need you to understand why 2026 is the most important moment in a generation to be having this conversation. The U.S. housing market is, by virtually every metric, at a crisis point. That $512,800 median home price. The median household income is around $74,000 a year. That means the average American home costs more than 7 times the average annual income. Housing economists consider a market affordable when prices are 3 times income. We are more than double that threshold nationwide. And it's not just purchase prices. Rent is climbing. Interest rates have kept monthly payments elevated. Insurance costs in climate-affected regions are creating a genuine crisis, even for existing homeowners. But here is the other side of that story, and it's genuinely exciting. Remote work accounted for 28% of all full-time U.S. employment in 2025. That means tens of millions of Americans are no longer tethered to a commuter corridor. And when you can work from anywhere, you can build almost anywhere, including on rural land that costs $5,000 to $15,000 per acre instead of the $50,000 to $200,000 per acre that suburban parcels command. That geographic freedom is exactly why barndominiums, farmhouses, and tiny homes are exploding right now. These aren't fringe trends. They are structural shifts in how Americans are choosing to live. When I first heard the word barndominium, I pictured exactly what the name suggests: a barn that someone threw a couch into. I was completely wrong. A barndominium is a large, versatile metal or steel frame building that functions as a fully finished home, and sometimes includes integrated workshop, garage, or utility space under the same roof. High ceilings of 12 to 16 feet, open concept living, exposed beams, polished concrete floors that double as your slab foundation, and a design flexibility that is genuinely staggering. The same structural shell can look industrial, coastal, rustic, farmhouse, modern, whatever you want. In 2026, barndominium house plan sales have climbed to 11% of all plans sold on major platforms, up from 8% just the year before. That is the fastest growing home style in America right now. The honest cost picture: barndominiums run $70 to $150 per square foot fully finished in 2026. A well-planned 1,200 square foot barndominium can come in at $84,000 to $180,000 depending on your location, your finish level, and how much of the interior work you handle yourself. Prefab kit packages, which include the steel frame, roofing, siding, windows, and exterior doors, start at $30 to $50 per square foot, giving serious DIYers a real cost advantage. Compare that to a traditional stick-built home at $150 to $300 plus per square foot, and you understand immediately why people are paying attention. The honest challenge is, financing is harder. Many conventional lenders do not know how to underwrite a Barndominium, which means you often need a construction loan, a rural specialty lender, or USDA or VA loan pathway. We cover this in full detail in episode 4 of this series. Zoning can be restrictive in certain municipalities. Climate-specific insulation strategy is non-negotiable, especially in high humidity regions. These are real considerations, and we will not gloss over them. Who is this for? Someone who wants maximum livable space per dollar, values design versatility, is open to rural or semi-rural living, and is not intimidated by a building process that requires a bit more homework than buying a conventional home. The modern farmhouse is not just a home style. It is a feeling. White walls and shiplap, a wraparound porch built for long evenings, a kitchen island that was designed for gatherings, board and batten siding, and a gabled roof that manages to feel both timeless and completely fresh. According to every major house plan platform, farmhouse remains the #1 most popular home style in America, accounting for roughly a third of all planned sales. And that dominance is not going anywhere. There's a cultural gravitational pull to the farmhouse that is almost impossible to overstate, and it is absolutely worth it for the right person. A well-built modern farmhouse holds its value exceptionally well. It is enduringly marketable. It photographs beautifully, which matters in a world where real estate is largely discovered online. And when it's done right, it is a generational home, the kind of place your kids want to come back to. The honest cost picture. This is where we have to have the real conversation that a lot of farmhouse content avoids. Building a modern farmhouse in 2026 runs $150 to $275 per square foot for construction, with total all-in costs, including land, site prep, permits, and builder margin, landing between $250 and $300 per square foot. A 2,500 square foot modern farmhouse. That is a $650,000 to $750,000 total investment in the average market. In high-cost metros, add 20% to 40%. That is not a scare tactic. That is National Association of Home Builders data. And it is information you deserve to have before you fall in love with a floor plan. The honest challenges, the signature elements that make a farmhouse beautiful, the complex roof lines, the large windows, the wraparound porch, the custom interior trim, are also what make it expensive. Simplifying the design to cut costs often means sacrificing the aesthetic details that made you want a farmhouse in the first place. That is a real tension, and it requires a real strategy. Who is this for? Someone for whom aesthetics are a genuine priority and a non-negotiable. Someone who is comfortable with conventional financing pathways. Someone planning a longer-term build with a larger budget who wants a home that will resonate with family, guests, and future buyers as classically, timelessly appealing. The tiny home movement was, in many ways, the original housing revolution of this century. Before anyone talked about barndominiums going mainstream, before the modern farmhouse dominated every design platform, there were people who looked at America's obsession with square footage and stuff and said, not for me. They built homes on wheels, 200 square foot cabins, converted buses. They shared their stories on YouTube and Instagram, and millions of people watched and felt something shift inside them. Not necessarily a desire to move into 150 square feet, but a desire to question the assumptions. And that is the lasting gift of the tiny home movement. The honest cost picture. The average tiny home in the U.S. costs about $67,000, which is 87% cheaper than the average traditionally built home. That gap is real, and it matters enormously for the right person. Professionally built tiny homes on wheels run $70,000 to $150,000 in 2026, with most buyers paying $80,000 to $130,000. And a global tiny home market hit $6.17 billion in 2025, projected to grow to nearly $8.5 billion by 2034. This is not a fad. It is a durable, growing market. But there is nuance here that most content skips. On a per square foot basis, Tiny homes actually run $150 to $450 per square foot, significantly more expensive than barndominiums, because you are spreading all the fixed costs of functional home, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, structural elements, across a fraction of the square footage. And tiny homes on wheels are typically classified as recreational vehicles for financing purposes, which means RV loan terms, higher rates, shorter payoff periods, rather than traditional mortgages. The honest challenges: zoning laws in many municipalities still restrict or prohibit sub-400 square foot dwellings. Land placement can be complicated. Resale on wheeled tiny homes works more like selling an RV than selling a house. And about 70% of tiny home owners are millennials, which tells you something about the life stage this product works best for, and the life stage is where it starts to strain. Who is this for? Someone who values mobility and financial freedom above square footage, often single or partnered without children. Someone for whom the 80% reduction in energy costs and the prospect of a paid-off home in their 30s outweighs the trade-offs in space and permanence. Now I want to show you exactly where this series is going, because the episodes we have planned are where this conversation gets really valuable. Episode 2, the true cost, no fluff, no fantasy. We go line by line through every cost category for all three home types: land, site prep, foundation, shell, plumbing, electrical, finishes, permits. We build 3 budget scenarios: budget, mid-range, and premium for each home style, so you can see exactly what your money buys at every level. This is the episode that will save you from the most expensive mistake people make in alternative housing: confusing the kit price with the total build cost. Episode 3, the 30-year financial model. Upfront cost is just one number. We build a full lifetime cost comparison: mortgage payments, maintenance, insurance, utilities, resale value, across all 3 home types over 10, 20, and 30 years. The home with the highest sticker price sometimes wins on lifetime cost. We show you the math. Episode 4, how to finance a barndominium, farmhouse, or tiny home in 2026. The episode the internet desperately needs. We map every financing pathway: construction loans, USDA rural housing loans, VA loans, RV financing for tiny homes, portfolio lenders, and the emerging class of alternative housing lenders. We tell you exactly what lenders want to see and how to prepare. Episode 5, zoning, permits, and the legal landscape. Which states are most alternative housing friendly? What zoning classifications allow each home type? What AD reform means for tiny homeowners in 2026. This is the episode that prevents the heartbreaking scenario where you find the perfect land, line up your financing, pick your floor plan, and discover the county won't permit it. Episode 6, floor plans face-off. The fun one. We look at real floor plans at multiple square footages for all 3 home types. We talk about ceiling height, natural light, storage strategy, privacy, and how each home type handles the practical demands of daily life. Episode 7, which home type is greenest? Energy efficiency, insulation strategy, solar integration, water use, and the carbon footprint of construction itself, compared honestly across all 3 types. The tiny home wins on consumption by default, but is it the greenest option per dollar invested? Not as clear as you'd think. Episode 8, real people, real homes. We talk to people who actually built and live in each home type. The good, the bad, the budget overruns, the permit nightmares, the things they love that they never expected, the stories where the most important lessons live. Episode 9, the resale reality. What happens when you try to sell? Appraisal challenges for barndominiums, marketability for tiny homes, and why the farmhouse's resale track record is both its greatest strength and one of its most compelling arguments. Episode 10, the verdict, the finale. A complete decision framework built around your specific situation: budget, family size, location, timeline, risk tolerance. And my personal recommendation: which of these 3 I would build for myself if I were starting today, and exactly why. I won't hedge. I'll make the case. Let me be real with you for a minute. I started this channel because the housing content I kept finding online was beautiful but not honest. It showed the finished barndominium without the financing nightmare. The farmhouse tour without the $700,000 price tag. The tiny home lifestyle without the zoning battle or the resale complications. And I think you deserve better than that. I think you're not looking to be inspired. You're looking to be informed. Those are different things. And this series is built around the second one. Every number in this series comes from verified 2026 data. Every episode acknowledges the trade-offs, not just the highlights. And every piece of content is built around one question. What does your situation look like? And what home type actually serve your life? That's the deal. That's what this channel offers. Here is what I know heading into 2026. For some of you, a barndominium is the most financially intelligent housing decision you will ever make. For others, the farmhouse is worth every dollar. And knowing exactly how to spend those dollars wisely is the difference between a dream realized and a budget destroyed. And for others, the tiny home is not a consolation prize. It is the actual prize. The freedom you have quietly wanted for years. This series will help you figure out which one is yours. 3 things before you go. 1. Comment below. Team Barndominium, Team Farmhouse, or Team Tiny Home. Tell me what's drawing you in. Your answer shapes this series and tells you something about yourself. 2. Subscribe and hit the bell. Episode 2 drops tomorrow and is the cost breakdown episode that I promise will be the most useful housing content you've seen this year. 3. Share this video with one person in your life who is wrestling with a housing decision. The friend who's been renting too long. The family member who's been pinning farmhouse kitchens for years without running the real numbers. Send them here. Let's build something that lasts. See you in the next one.